Hi there. So welcome to chapter 3 of your organizational communication subject. In this chapter, we'll be discussing about the organization as a social system and also about the organizational culture. Right, let's dive into the first topic, which is the organization as a social system. Now, let me recap for you about what is an organization. I do hope you still remember what an organization is. So, an organization is basically full of a group of people who work interdependently to achieve a common goal. Now, how do they go about achieving those goals? Well, they have to create, communicate, and operate the systems that exist within the organization. Now, as managers, especially as people from the top management, they need to understand the elements of the social system. They need to understand the role conflicts that their employees are experiencing. Apart from that, status, culture, as well as its relationship to the organization is also quite important to consider. Okay then, so let's look at what a social system is. So this will be the first concept that you will be learning in this video. Okay, so a social system is a complex set of human relationships interacting in many ways. So it is determined by an organization culture. So in a social system, there exists another kind of system which we will refer to as a subsystem. Okay, so a subsystem here refers to a small group which has its own system and is a part of a larger group, which is the organization. Now, there can be more than one subsystem. So this is why it is crucial for managers to understand the subsystems that exist in their own organization. A social system includes all people in its as well as their relationships to one another and to the outside world as well. They interact to get the job done. So that is the point of having a system in an organization, to get the job done. There you go. That's the concept of the social system in an organization. Now we are coming into the subtopic within the social system, and there are 6 concepts. Yeah, you heard me right. 6. So try your best to focus, okay? But we'll go through it one by one. Now let's look at the first concept of a social system in an organization, which is social equilibrium. Firstly, and secondly, the functional and dysfunctional effects in an organization. Thirdly, the psychological and economic contracts in that organization. Fourthly, impact of roles, role conflict, and also status. So those make up the 6 social system concepts. Right, let's look at the first social system concept, which is social equilibrium. A social equilibrium here, okay, it's a situation in which a system is in a dynamic working balance. Okay, balance among all other interdependent subsystems. Now, before I explain further, perhaps you're thinking, what is this subsystem again? Okay, so subsystem can refer to a group of colleagues, maybe a department, for example, a human resource department or school of communication department, yeah, or maybe your group of friends there. Okay, that's also a subsystem. informal subsystem. It can also be a formal subsystem. So if there are any changes in any subsystem, other subsystems will be affected, and they must be able to adapt to the changes, okay, and make necessary adjustments so that the system can maintain its balance, its equilibrium. Okay, so when there is a dynamic working balance among all interdependent subsystems, a system is said to be in social equilibrium. To put things short, basically you need to have a balance from all other groups of people working in the organization so that the organization can function well and achieve its goals. Right, let's look at the second concept from the social system, the functional and dysfunctional effects. So this concept is about organizational changes, right? Sometimes when an organization is going through changes, it can result in two outcomes. Now, the first outcome is a favorable outcome. Therefore, we refer it to as a positive or functional effects, right? It gives out a positive outcome. For example, perhaps your organization is introducing artificial intelligence to the system, right? So the AI is actually making your work easier, hence affecting other subsystems and making their work easier. So that will result in a favorable outcome and the organization will be able to achieve their goals. Okay, so that's what we call a functional effect. Secondly, if the organization is going through changes and the changes are giving out negative outcomes, it's causing the organization to deteriorate, to not progress. Yeah. Okay, let's take the same example, the artificial intelligence. Everyone is talking about AI, industrial revolution, right? So your CEO is thinking of, giving out the AI to help out the organization. However, many people or many of the employees do not know how to use the AI. So they feel like, this is so much work, having to learn a new system altogether. This is making my work very slow and I'm super stressed about it. So can you imagine if one person feels that way, it will affect also other workers, other employees, thus affecting other subsystems. So the AI that has been introduced to the company is actually not making things easier for the employees, right? So that's what we call a dysfunctional effect. Okay, let's look at the third social system concept, which is the psychological and economic contracts. Now, what is this contract? So basically, a contract is an agreement, okay, between an employer and an employee on what to give and what to receive from each other. Okay, so let's look at the psychological contracts first. Employees agree to give psychological involvement, okay, both in terms of contributions of their effort and also expectations within the social system, right? So psychological contracts are basically elements that has to do with the emotion, the effort, the energy, okay, the involvement, the participation to the organization, right? So the boss expects you to work hard, and you also expect yourself to work hard for your organization, and you also expect the boss to acknowledge your hard work. So those are what we call psychological contracts. Now, the second one is what we are used to listening, which is what we call the economy contracts. So employees here, they contribute their energy, give their efforts. In return, they get money from it, aka salary. Yeah. So this is a form of economy contract, the boss expects you to give your skills, your effort, and they will give you money. And the employees can also expect to receive the salary after they have given their skills and effort. Okay, so those are the two types of contracts: psychological and economy. So the psychological and the economy contracts are based on a communication theory. We call it as the exchange theory. Now, exchange theory suggests that the individual have a certain evaluation of the rewards that they receive versus the cost that they have to go through between themselves and the organization. So according to exchange theory, if there's a positive relationship between the individual and the organization, okay, that means the individual is receiving more rewards. Okay, one must receive greater rewards rather than incur more cost. Yeah, so the individual should receive more rewards rather than going through cost. Yeah, for example, okay, so the job is fun for you to do, okay, and the salary is great. Okay, so that means you are gaining more reward, okay, rather than experiencing a lot of cost. Now, if it's a negative relationship, that means the individual is experiencing more cost rather than reward. So more cost here, for example, means a very not that great boss, okay, not understanding the work environment is stressful, the job that you're doing is not easy, okay, it's not within your capabilities, so the relationship is more negative. Right, so coming back to the positive relationship, if we have that, okay, there will be more higher job satisfaction. The higher job performance, you will perform even better, even more. You're willing out to give more of yourself to the organization. Okay, the employees will stay. They don't want to leave the organization because they feel like their efforts have been rewarded appropriately, fairly. Okay, and also it will result in employee promotion. So these are all based on what we call the exchange theory. An individual must receive more reward rather than incur more cost. Okay, so now we've come to the fourth concept, which is roles. Just now we discussed social system in an organization. So that's something big, right? And in that social system, there exists a smaller group of people, which we refer to as the subsystem. Okay, so subsystem can be a bunch of people working in a department, for example, or maybe it can be a group of your best friends working together. Yeah. Now, within that subsystem is you, the individual. So, what do you do in your organization? What's your role? Okay, so that's what we are going to discuss right now. So, what is a role? A role can be defined as a prescribed or an expected behavior associated with a particular position or status in your organization, or maybe within your group as well. So what are you supposed to do? Okay, what is it that you're supposed to do? Right, so a person's role comes together with rights, obligations, your responsibility, your level of power, right? In order for you to communicate effectively with others, you need to, first of all, know your role, and secondly, anticipate other people's roles in the organization. So this will lead up to the second concept, which is role perception. Okay, role perception is how you think your role is supposed to be, or how you think what other people's roles are. So it can be subjective, and because it's subjective, it can lead to a lot of miscommunication in an organization. So unfortunately, this is a normal thing, okay? So we just need to be aware, and we need to understand what is it that we are supposed to do in that organization. All right, so keep in mind the role perception that happens in your organization. Okay, so we're coming into the fifth social system concept, which is role conflict. Now, previously, we discussed the concept of role and, most importantly, role perceptions, because role perception can lead to many types of miscommunication within the organization. All right, so it's important for us to know what are some of this miscommunication, or in other words, we call it as role conflict. Now, there are 6 types of role conflicts. Yes, that's a lot, I know, but don't worry, we'll go one by one. Okay, let's look at the first type of role conflict. We refer it to as intra-sender. So intra-sender here means a person who is communicating an inconsistent or a conflicting expectations to a role holder. Now, refer to your slide notes. There's a picture of 2 people arguing. Okay, so the man there seems like the boss, okay, and the woman there is probably the employee. Right? So the boss is communicating something extraordinary to the employee. Now, the boss is communicating something that is beyond the expectations of the employee. So that can be a role conflict, which is what we call the intra-sender. Secondly, the concept of inter-sender. Now, inter-sender here involves 2 or more people, all right? So 2 or more individuals place an incompatible demands upon a person. Yeah, so in the picture, if you refer to your slide notes, in the picture here, there are 2 female colleagues, all right, arguing with one male colleague. All right, so the male colleague is receiving incompatible demands or an extra demand from both of the female colleagues, right? So basically, it's you stuck in the middle of an incompatible or inconsistent role demand that you're not even supposed to do, okay? Moving on to the third conflict, inter-role. All right, let's recap for a bit. The first one was intra-sender, where one person communicates an inconsistent demand upon another person. The inter-sender, all right, where 2 or more people communicates incompatible demands to one role holder. And the third one here, inter-role, is you who was stuck in the middle, feeling such a headache coming on and worrying about your roles, because there's more than one roles that you have to play. Yeah, so an individual occupies more than one role with inconsistent expectations, resulting in a lot of dilemma within yourself. And because of that dilemma, you're unsure what role should you prioritize. So that's inter-role. Okay, moving on to the fourth role conflict, which is person role. All right, so this refers to a role holder, all right, who is required to do something that goes against his or her belief system, his or her values, Basically, that person is in a dilemma because he or she has to do something that maybe it's going against their religious beliefs or their moral principles. Yeah, so that's a person role conflict. Fifthly, role overload. So this occurs when there is a lack of balance among all of the role expectations that you have obtained, okay, that people have given to you, right? So you are feeling a lot of stress, and hence the term overload, role overload. Too much work to do, and you do not have the proper management of your roles. And lastly, role ambiguity, right? So it is where the person is experiencing a lack of clarity, a lack of understanding on what they are supposed to do, okay, especially in terms of their job scope. So this is unfortunate. It happens in any organization. So be mindful of this situation. If you ever experience such things, sit down, take time to write all of your role expectations that people have bestowed upon you, yeah, and sort it out. Okay, I know it's easier said than done, so if you find it a bit difficult to do it alone, get your close friend or your partner, or if you are okay with your boss, talk it out with the boss. Ask the boss, what is it that I'm supposed to do here? What is actually my role here? Okay, so those are all of the 6 role conflict concepts. I hope you don't get to experience a lot of it, but if you do, well, you've learned about this and you can actually manage it. Okay, so we've come to the last section of our topic for today, which is the organizational culture. Now, organizational culture refers to a system of shared meanings held by the members in an organization, and those meanings distinguishes the organization from other types of organization. Yeah? People working in the same organization will display the same set of behavior as they share the same values, norms, beliefs, and the vision of their organization. So an example here can be, for example, Google, right? Google is very well known for having a positive set of organizational culture. Yeah, they're very dynamic, they value innovation, they value technology, all right? So that's an example of organizational culture, and we always see their employees having fun at the workplace. There's a bunch of de-stressing tools or games for the employees to play with at their organization. And there's a free flow of pantry. Yeah, so they encourage their employees to be happy there, to not stress out so much, because maybe working in that industry really stresses out people. Okay, it's a fast-paced world, especially when you're working for Google, right? So that's one example of an organization, an international one. Okay, perhaps you can think about other types of organizations that you have worked with, or perhaps that you would like to join. Okay, so stay tuned for the upcoming tutorial in a bit. Okay, so we've come to the last part of our lecture for organizational communication as a social system. So this last part is about the organizational culture. You may be wondering, why do we have to learn about organizational culture? And in this topic, we'll be discussing how to create an organizational culture. Well, organizational culture is everything, you guys. If we understand the cultural values, all right? As a boss, you want to communicate those values, those visions to your employees so that your employees will be loyal to your company, so that your employees will be motivated to work. So from the perspective of the employees, right? If they understand their organizational culture's values, right? How they do things around in the company, they will feel a sense of belonging to their company. All right, they will feel more job satisfaction, they will perform better, especially when they understand the value system that is aligned with their own value system too. So that is why we must understand the organizational culture, and it is a huge part of the organizational communication. Right, so let's take a look at the first step in order to create the organizational culture. The first step is to formulate strategic values. So what is strategic values? It refers to the organization, okay? They have to evaluate their environment where the organization is operating. So what's in the environment? A lot. Social problems, economic issues, demographic issues, so technology advancement. So what is the social issue that the company or the organization wants to address? The organization will then link itself to the issues in the environment. For example, let's pick an example. Let's pick Shopee. Okay, so everyone loves to shop, and one of the famous platform is Shopee. Right, so Shopee wants to address the issues of e-commerce, and they also want to help the consumers, all right, to give convenience, and also they want to help the small business owners to sell their products, especially to the region. Right, so those are the strategic values that the organization wants to address. Right, the second step is to develop cultural values. So the values here refers to the values that the employees need to have and act upon to carry out the company's or the organization's strategic values. So again, let's take the example of Shopee. So Shopee's cultural values is that they want to be fast in everything that they do, because e-commerce, right, it's very fast. Okay? It's a fast-paced industry to be in. They want to innovate, right? There are many types of online business platforms, many types of technology that can provide convenience to their customers. So they are all for innovation and being fast. So those are some of the two core values that Shopee has. You can read up on their core values by referring to their website, their vision and mission. Right, so the third step is create vision. Okay, so here a vision statement combining both strategic values and also cultural values. So with regards to Shopee's vision and mission, they want to be the best in the region. They want to provide the most convenient platform for their customers and also for the small business owners. So you can refer to the vision and mission of any organization. Okay, so the fourth step is to initiate implementation strategies. Okay, so this refers to how an organization develop action strategies to accomplish their vision, right? So one of the vision is to be, for Shopee, one of their vision is to be the best in the region, okay, and to provide convenience to their customers. So what are some of the action plans that they are willing to do? Okay, what about their employees? How do they equip their employees to be the best at their jobs, be the best at serving their customers. So that's an example of initiating implementation strategies. Lastly, reinforce cultural behavior. So the organization wants to reward all of these positive behaviors that their employees are sharing with the companies. So reinforcement may take various forms, such as having a reward system, like a bonus system, or if they are able to get many customers, then they will get a percentage from that profit. Okay, so there are many ways that the company or the organization can reinforce positive behaviors for their employees. So once they are able to reinforce these behaviors, then the employees will make sure that the organizational culture will be upheld, will be practiced, and the organization can function fully and achieve their organizational goals. So there you have it, the 5 steps to create an organizational culture. Okay everyone, so we've come to the end of the online lecture. We have discussed the concept of social system in an organization. We have discussed the concept of role perception, role conflicts. We also have discussed the concept on organizational culture. I hope you've enjoyed the lesson as much as I did creating this online lecture for all of you. Okay, as for your tutorial, there will be 2 parts. The first part will test your understanding on the social system in an organization. That will be in the form of multiple choice questions. Super easy. The next part, however, tests your understanding on the organizational culture, especially on how to create an organizational culture. And I would like you to explore one of Malaysia's leading organizations, which is the Malaysian Digital Economy organization there. Okay, I will post the link down below, and and some of the further instructions that I will provide. Thank you so much for watching, and